Good morning. I am Eddie Fahnestock, and I am the president of the Wichita Board of Park Commissioners. I also sit on the Golf Advisory Committee with Michael here and Troy, our Director of Park and Recreation for the City of Wichita. Mentioned Michael, he sits on the GAC with me and is a tremendous brand ambassador to the City of Wichita and the golf world. So with that, Troy, thanks for being here.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you guys are here because we want to talk about a very important topic. It's about golf. We have a beautiful background here at golf, and this year golf has been doing great, and we're looking at some possible changes, some ideas that we are floating around, and one of them is in regards to a request for proposal that we put out for a third-party operator to manage and operate our golf courses, which would mean that we would hire somebody to do that for us, to do this as a professional management group to do that. Yeah, I'm kind of excited about what that's going to look like. That opens up a lot of different options for us.
Yeah, can we just expand on that for the viewers that may not be following us for the past 6 months to a year and just kind of delve a little bit deeper into what the RFP process looks like and how we got here?
Sure. Well, I'm going to go back a little bit even further in history. So it's probably about 9-10 years ago that we actually went through this process to see what kind of opportunities are out there for golf management to manage our golf courses. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. There's efficiencies, there's opportunities to get a quality management team in there for marketing to really bolster up our marketing. We have true professionals that are out there maintaining the courses, holding the employees there very much accountable. So when we do this, we actually have this opportunity to do a self-evaluation of our courses and of our staff as well, and to see what's going to work better. 10 years ago, when we did this, they came back and said, you know what, we can actually maintain our golf courses and do the golf operations better in-house. So about a year ago, the question came up again, and there was a big push from several stakeholders to say, hey, let's go out there and see what this could look like again. So we went through a process of doing the RFP, very specific of what we wanted, and we got 7 bids in, and we've done some interviews. We're still kind of looking at evaluating what those proposals are, but pretty soon I think we'll have an outcome and kind of compare it to what we do in-house.
Excellent. Some of the questions that I've been receiving, I'm sure Michael has been receiving as well. Does an RFP, going out to an RFP, does that commit the city to ultimately selecting a operator or manager for these golf courses?
Actually, no. We can request an RFP, a request for proposal, anytime, any place, anywhere for any kind of service. And what that does is it gives us that opportunity, as I mentioned earlier, to compare what we're doing in-house to what would be proposed. And that doesn't obligate us to any type of commitment to any kind of third-party operator. It's just a great tool for us to help evaluate us as well as what the market can bear. And if there's an opportunity that there's a win-win, then that kind of looks like a good opportunity to look at it. If it's not, then we look at other options internally that would work best for our customers.
So a committee met last week to interview companies who applied. You mentioned 4 made the cut, 7 total applied for it, 4 made the cut. Troy, can you speak to the process of where we go from here?
Sure. So we interview the 4 final companies that brought their proposals. And it's really kind of interesting when they do this. It's really kind of hard to compare apples to apples. So we really need to sit down and look at their proposals and kind of listen from their interviews. Financially, what are the gains and what are the pros and cons? And so we can actually put it in a situation where we can actually measure one against the other. We listened to their proposals last week, and we're in the process right now of making that evaluation. Primarily, it's financial evaluations, but during the interviews, we asked a lot of questions in regards to how are they going to manage the courses, what's their expectations, what's their goals. And one of the things that we've learned is the more we ask questions, the more that we can hold them accountable, especially when we start to develop a contract.
So as a city, we're kind of in a unique position where we can look at several different options, Michael. Can you speak to a little bit about what we want to see as a city and maybe some of the other like cities that kind of do this?
Yeah, and look, I look at it both as a citizen of Wichita and a golfer in Wichita, and so I think Troy hit the nail on the head talking about efficiencies and talking about evaluations, whether that's the route we go or the route we don't go, to determine from a product standpoint, how do we put the best product in front of our citizens, something people from Wichita can be proud of, whether you play golf or not. And for our golfers, and if that means taking it out to a private management company, then we'll evaluate that and go through the appropriate steps. And if we decide not, as Troy mentioned, maybe we find some inefficiencies internally. I think when you look at other cities, some of these management companies come in and they all work with municipalities. And you can go look and go to Google and find reviews from the citizens of those areas about how they feel about the golf courses being run in those municipalities, and that's what I did. And so there was cities in Texas that were provided as examples, cities in Iowa, cities all over the country with similar demographics to our city that allow us to use kind of a case study as we take a look. So I think it's important to cross-reference those and then know some of the intricacies of Wichita as well as we evaluate that decision.
Yeah, and I know you and I have had multiple discussions about our kind of common goals, and one thing that we just kept coming back to is we want to leave the generation, our next generation, with a better product than what we grew up with, and setting your kids up. I don't have kids that I know of yet. Have a place to go and learn the game of golf and continue to grow that. So that's been a big priority on all of our plates on the Golf Advisory Committee and the Park Board, along with the staff. So go ahead.
Yeah, and I think that's also a priority for the people presenting the management committee. It's not just why do we want them, it's why do they want us as well. It's a partnership, and that's how we evaluate it. So they have to show us why it matters for them to be a part of the growth of what you just mentioned, and not just another account on the books. So I think that's important for both parties. Absolutely.
Another thing, Troy, that I've received concern about is the ability to oversee the contract. Especially considering the ice rink RFP that has gone out, that obviously the city will revisit soon. But we've also had great success with projects like Stryker, and on the county side, Trust Bank Arena. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Most definitely, and I've been here 7 years, and one of the first things I saw was the ice rink contract, and which really was surprising to me because there was not a whole lot of accountability in there. And so when we talk about this opportunity with the golf contract, if we end up doing this, we're going to put in there some really strong accountability items. We want to see financials on a regular basis. We want to verify those. We want to have opportunities to audit and look at the point of sales. We want to make sure that what they're reporting is actually what's happening. We're going to hold them accountable in regards to the level and quality of service in each one of the golf clubhouses. Another big item is the maintenance. Our staff really work hard. They really, and for me, they kick butt. They just do so much hard work. And if we're going to hand this over to a third-party operator, we want that same expectation. So we're going to have measures in there and check marks, making sure that happens. And if they don't, there's penalties. That's what a contract is all about. And that's what's been missing in some of our contracts in the past. And I really think it's just opportunities for us to learn as contract administrators to make sure that those items are in there. And that's what's going to be one of my top jobs, to make sure that happens.
Yeah, and Troy, speaking of contracts and all of the expenses, I know there's two buckets to that really. You have the city with the management company, and then I know the golfers are sitting there going, well, what does that mean for me, right? What does that mean for my Monday round or my Saturday round? I know these will all be developed in the conversation, but can you kind of talk to the price for the golfer and the affordability of public
Sure.
Wichita golf moving forward?
Well, in our discussions with each one of the folks that did proposals, it was very clear that ultimately the final decision maker on any kind of price changes would be City Council, going through the park board and making recommendations to City Council. And every now and then, we always have to make adjustments to some of our prices, whether it's for our golf carts, whether it's an increase in the driving range, or maybe some other opportunities of managing passes and that kind of stuff. They know that, these third-party operators know that they need to hold true to what's so important with municipal golf is affordability. Affordability, affordability. That's how we're going to get these golfers to continue to keep coming. That's why this past 2 years we've really had a great increase in a lot of our golf numbers. But there's a balance there, and if there's some opportunities to make a little bit more money to put back into the golf courses, and by the way, that's what's really important, is any of the extra money that we get goes back into the golf courses to repair or replenish the fleet, make improvements to irrigation, which is something that we really need to do, make improvements to the clubhouses. So it needs to be sustainable. We need to work on this model, and at the same time, working with our council to see if we can find some other capital dollars, some other ways to put money back into the golf courses. So it feels like it's a really nice balancing act, but when we have a third-party operator that comes in that has expertise in food and beverage, and they can make improvements to the food and beverage menu and the service, that's something my staff, we don't have the time or the resources to do that. And there's efficiencies in regards to an example of hiring. For me to hire somebody, it takes several months. I put it out, goes through a whole committee, we make a huge review of it, and it takes 2, 3, 4 months sometimes. Have a third-party operator, they can hire somebody the next day. There's just so many efficiencies that happen that relieve the general fund to do other things to make improvements for the rest of the city. You look at it at a bigger scope and how it all balances out. But the proposal has to be right. Yeah, that's the thing that's really important.
So, and then, timing's going to come up, right? And in Kansas, we can probably golf every month of the year, but we all know starting now through March, it gets a little dicey, which probably puts us in a good timing window to evaluate things, knowing we've kind of got some time to prepare for 2022 and the next golf season. We're having this conversation. When will the Golf Advisory Committee, the Park Board, when will we kind of start hearing some conversations with other, boards within the city around this topic?
Well, on a monthly basis, I've been giving updates to the Golf Advisory Board as well as the Park Board. And so, as we've been going through this process, as I mentioned, we recently had some final interviews, and we'll hopefully be making some selections as we move forward, and want to share that with the Golf Advisory Committee as well as the Park Board. The good thing is we don't have a deadline that we have to adhere to, so if it happens in January or it happens in February or it happens in March, we're in good shape, but we would definitely want to get it. If we get the third-party operator, we want it sometime in early spring or or late winter. I'm shooting for January 2nd. There's a lot of hoops to jump through to make that happen. Obviously, this needs to go to council, and council would need to vote on it. And if they do, then that's something we want to put that timetable in place. I'm shooting for January 2nd. But if things don't line up, we can do it a little bit later, maybe February or even the beginning of March. So those are the timelines that I'm working with.
Okay. All right.
Excellent.
Excellent. As Eddie said, and in closing, look, I think it's important to note, if you tuned in, thanks for giving us the chance to talk. And if you tune in later and you have questions, my suggestion is to reach out to anybody on the Park Board Commission, anybody on the Golf Advisory Committee. You can find their contact information at wichita.gov. And at the end of the day, if you're a golfer in this town, or you care about golf in this town, or you're just a concerned citizen in this town, this is an important topic, and we'd encourage your thoughts and your comments. And I think there's plenty of people willing to listen to them.
Absolutely.
All right, guys.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep.